told some kid, I said, look, I've been taking martial arts for more than 50 years, and I'm going to knock your fool self out if you open your mouth and say something familiar again. I am either Mr. Attorney, lawyer, doctor, or judge to you. Now, I've paid my dues, you haven't. And I don't give a doggone, and I use a little bit firmer language, I don't give a damn about whether your generation thinks that everybody is everybody else's peer when it comes to what you've done when you ain't done nothing. So what you see with this boy shooting out here in California, yeah, it's got racist connotations, but that's not the primary problem. We do have a manifestation of that same thing because our inner cities are matriarchies, and the boys don't have man training, no father in the home, and we on a regular basis shoot up our neighborhoods and kill with drive-bys. The white folk and the Asians, they go off on binges, and you get hallway getting shot up instead of hood getting shot up. But what's wrong with this kid out there is lack of masculinity in his makeup.
Yvette Ohika was in Burhouse English class.
I was in shock. I was like, that cannot be him.
He didn't fit the profile of what you hear of as a typical school shooter.
Yeah, and that scares me even more because you realize how easy it is for it to happen again.
Well, the city of Santa Clarita, California, just north of Los Angeles, continues to grieve this morning following this week's deadly shooting at Saugus High School.
This was the scene Thursday morning at Saugus High School when a student opened fire on his 16th birthday. He shot 5 classmates, killing 2.
Days after a 16-year-old student gunned down 2 classmates, opening fire with a .45 caliber handgun, his motive remains a mystery.
We did not find any manifesto, any diary that spelled it out, any suicide note, or any writings which will clearly identify his motive.
Authorities say the shooter chose his victims at random, counting out his rounds in order to save the final bullet for himself, succumbing to his injuries late Friday.
They say when 16-year-old Nathaniel Burhow took out his .45 caliber handgun, it initially jammed.
In 16 seconds, he cleared a malfunction and was able to shoot 5 people and himself, so he seemed very familiar with firing the weapon.
Law enforcement tell NBC News the weapon may have been a ghost gun, similar to these, easily purchased online and assembled at home.
They're even on YouTube how to do it. You convert that kit into a gun, it's not registered, and it's untraceable.
Here was a 16-year-old with a girlfriend, a member of his school's cross-country team, now the country's latest mass shooter.
What was his mother's reaction to all this?
She was cooperative in the interview, and she's as shocked as everyone else.
Investigators say they found several guns inside the shooter's home. Some were registered to his late father. Others were not registered at all.
Radio, DJ. One nation, one station.
All right, Philo the Great, let's get started. Hello, everybody. You're listening to the Judge Joebrown Show, YouTube. I am Valerie Denise Jones, getting ready to patch you into a recent live broadcast starring Dr. Umar Johnson and, of course, Judge Joebrown. Please leave your comments below. Also, subscribe, and don't forget to tell a friend who will tell a friend about today's show. Thank you so much for spending time with me. All right, see you down in the comments section.
So, Dr. Umar, what I want you to do is first just give us a brief intro, so that in case there's somebody hiding under a rock who has absolutely no knowledge of who you are, go on and tell us a little bit about yourself. But I do want to ask you 3 questions real quick before the judge gets here. So I'll give you an opportunity to go on and intro yourself.
Certainly. Dr. Umar Johnson, Doctor of Clinical Psychology, Certified School Psychologist, Certified School Principal, author of the book, Psychoacademic Holocaust, The Special Education and ADHD Wars Against Black Boys. Upcoming book that will hopefully release during Kwanzaa will be Black Parent Advocate, The Art of War for Dealing with America's Racists, Public and Charter Schools, founder of the National Independent Black Parent Association and the Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Leadership Academy, which is in Wilmington, Delaware, 4 beautiful buildings that we're raising money to restore. And we're asking all of your listeners, please donate to FDMG. You can donate in 2 ways. You can Mail a check or money order payable to FDMG Academy, P.O. Box 9634, Wilmington, Delaware. I repeat, FDMG Academy, P.O. Box 9634, Wilmington, Delaware, 19809. We're trying to raise $1 million to rehab the building. You can also donate on the Cash App. The arm is $FDMG School. The link is cash.me/$FDMG School. And also, Valerie, I want to quickly let your listeners know that I have made an announcement earlier today that I'm going to be doing a 50-state tour. NIBPA, another organization that I founded, National Independent Black Parent Association. We have a parent leadership training conference that we offer that teaches black parents everything they need to know from A until Z about protecting their child's rights in the schools. And I'm going to be going around to every state, every single state in 2020 to educate parents. And if there's anyone listening who would like to host that training for the black parents in your state, church, community center, a community-based organization, you must have the facilities that can accommodate at least 150 black parents sitting in chairs around tables. If you have space for 150 parents to do that, please get in contact with Dr. Umar Johnson, and we can schedule your NIBPA statewide black parent training today. And that's drumarjohnson.com, drumarjohnson@yahoo.com. Last but not least, blood relative to the great Frederick Douglass, blood relative to the great Bishop Alexander Wayman.
Wow, and congratulations. That definitely deserves its own round of applause. Yes, and then can they find all of this information on your website, drumarjohnson.com?
Most of it also on my social network pages, Instagram and Twitter, at Dr. Umar Johnson. Again, that's Instagram and Twitter, at Dr. Umar Johnson. And on Facebook, at Dr. Umar Ifatunde. By telephone, they can reach out to me at 8444 Dr. Umar. That's 8444-DRUMAR. And they can text message me on 215-989-9858. Again, 215-989-9858.
Thank you. Appreciate you so much. All right, so let's backpedal just a second because I played an audio clip, and I don't know if you got a chance to hear it in its entirety. What's going on with our people?
Well, number one, to clarify, because I didn't see the news recording, but I heard your audio in its entirety, was that a black student shooting or was that a white student shooting?
Well, he's Asian, and I didn't want to be ratchet because they kept calling him a male student, and I was going to ask you, but I changed my mind, if they would have referenced him as a thug as opposed to a male student. But, yeah, he was an Asian student, 16 years old, killed a 14 and a 16-year-old, and also injured 3 people. But, yes, Asian, not black.
Okay. The victims, were they white, Asian, or black?
They haven't identified the victims, but I assume that they were Caucasian because of the parents that the news highlighted, put a spotlight on. So, but, yeah, no word as to who they were yet.
Okay. The reason I asked that question is not because I'm insensitive to the suffering of young people, irrespective of race. So I'm sad that this happened to all those involved, as much as I'm sad as to what happened to all those involved in Columbine, which was the original school shooting massacre, or any of the other shootings. However, as an African, I'm very much concerned about the fact that whenever these tragedies occur in our public schools, in their public schools, these mass shootings, they always prompt a locking down on school violence, a need to stop and frisk young people, a need to intensify suspensions and expulsions, the need to grow the alternative and disciplined school industry, and black children always suffer more. Our children are hit the hardest even when these tragedies are carried out by and carried out against non-African students. The Columbine massacre that took place gave birth to zero tolerance laws that says if you even show up in school with anything that remotely looks like a weapon, you will be thrown out of the school even if you have no history of violence nor any intent to commit violence with the so-called weapon. So when I look at these cases, my heart hurts for our children. Although I can feel sorry for the loss of the life of any child, I know our children will be hit the hardest in the changes that will come from the United States Department of Education as well as the 50 state departments of education as a result of this shooting. And it's a shame that a white trauma or an Asian trauma always spells more oppression for black children. Now, to answer your question specifically, America is dying, and she's dying from within. And the ironic thing about America is she's not much more than 200 years old. America is a baby when compared with the age of other countries around the world, but more importantly, when compared to other historic empires and dynasties. And like most empires and dynasties, and of course, we gave birth to the greatest ones in world civilization, Nile Valley cultures. Most of them were destroyed from within as much as from without. And since America is so preoccupied with wealth, America is so preoccupied with conspicuous consumption, so preoccupied with grandeur, so preoccupied with owning things, America has turned its back and has ignored the need to effectively address issues that affect human life, even in the field of psychology. Even in the field of psychology, psychology has become all about money. Psychology ain't really about helping people. I wouldn't say that people are not being helped by getting therapy because I'm a therapist, but I also understand that most people who go to psychotherapy, and this is a fact, by the way, this is a fact, most people who go to psychotherapy will never get help because psychotherapy has been reinvented as a tool of capitalism. It's all about how much money can we make from people who need help, not how much of a benefit are we to people who need help. So you're going to see more and more of this, but I must underscore and emphasize the fact that no matter how many white students commit mass shootings, no matter how many Asian students commit mass shootings, remember, this is not the first Asian student. The Virginia Tech tragedy that took place years ago, there was also an Asian student. But isn't it interesting that no matter how many Asians go on shooting sprees, or no matter how many white youth go on shooting sprees, the media has never yet sought to recreate the image of the Asian youngster as a mass killer. The media has not sought to reinvent the image of the young white shooter as a criminal. But yet and still, black youth who almost never go on school shooting sprees. I think we may have one or two, if that, we will have to confirm that. I'm not sure if a black child has ever walked into a school and indiscriminately started shooting people who were innocent. I don't think we've ever had that in our community. But yet and still, the media has branded black children as dangerous and as prone to violence. And so we have to look at how these types of situations, when they happen where whites and Asians are treated one way, and when they happen with our children are treated in a totally different manner.
Thank you for that. Did you want to speak on the demand for gun control? Because that's it's a hot topic now. I am not a proponent of gun control unless we can guarantee that gun control system is equitably and indiscriminately implemented against all Americans equally, because here's what I believe will happen. This is why I do not favor gun control. I believe they will use gun control as a cover to de-arm black people so that we are not able to defend and protect ourselves, and all the while
allowing white people to continue to own their guns. I do not trust this government. I have no reason to believe that the United States government would systematically disarm white people to the same degree that they would systematically disarm black people. Now, if it could be done in an equitable manner, I would be all for gun control. But I know the United States of America doesn't have an equality bone in her racist body. And I think that a gun control measure carried out in this country would be nothing other than a military operation to disarm black America and overarm white America. I do not trust it. I do not think they would take weapons from white people. I think they would only take weapons from black people. And because of that, I cannot support a gun control measure. I think black people need to stay armed.
Okay. Thank you so much for that. I brought that up because he was carrying a .45 semi-automatic, and in 16 seconds he was able to kill 2 and injure 3 in 16 seconds. All right.
Well, let us
so
also remember this, Sister Valerie, really quickly.
Sure.
Let us also remember it would be impossible anyway. Even if America wanted to completely disarm its citizenry, I think it would be almost impossible to do it. There are so many guns in circulation in this country. From some estimates that I made, that I've read, there's enough guns in America that every American citizen could be given a dozen of guns apiece, and you would still have tens of millions of guns left over. How could you be absolutely sure that every gun has been confiscated? Because keep in mind, a lot of guns are handmade at home. There are websites and magazines and books that I've just come across recently that I never even knew existed that teach you how to make a gun at home. So that is a handmade gun that doesn't even have a serial number. So even if America were serious about disarming its citizenry, and I don't believe it is at all for 1 minute, because America is a bloodthirsty country. This country was forged in blood, sustained in blood, and it will be destroyed in blood. Forged in blood, sustained in blood, and it will be destroyed in blood. But there's no way a country like this, with that many guns in circulation, not to mention all the handmade guns that are not even registered, there's no way you can prove that you have confiscated all firearms. Black people need to keep their weapons.
Yes, and I totally agree with that. I just got a text from the judge, so I'm going to look for him. And while I look for him, I'm going to play this audio clip because I do want to give you and the judge a chance to just talk up into the 5 o'clock hour. But I definitely want you to hit our hot topics because our focus groups, they suggest things, and I try to make sure that we address them because they're a huge part, of our family. All right, guys, welcome back. You are listening to the Judge Joe Brown Show. I am Valerie Denise Jones. Thank you so much for hanging out with us today. 929-477-1167. We got the one and only Dr. Umar Johnson in the building, and we're about to open up Judge Joe Brown's mic. 323-646. Welcome, sir. How are you?
Hello, Miss Valerie. Let's start with the last subject first. I'll be brief on that. So what you see with this boy shooting out here in California, yeah, it's got racist connotations, but that's not the primary problem. We do have a manifestation of that same thing because our inner cities are matriarchies, and the boys don't have man training, no father in the home, and we on a regular basis shoot up our neighborhoods and kill with drive-bys. The white folk and the Asians, they go off on benches, and you get hallway getting shot up instead of hood getting shot up. But what's wrong with this kid out there is lack of masculinity in his makeup. And that's part of the policy that has been in place and increasingly obvious over the last 50 years to get rid of masculinity. Now, what he used, that they're calling about banned semi-automatics, what he used was 1911 in 45 ACP. 1911 is when the design was adopted by the U.S. military. It was patented by John Browning in 1910, so it is 109 years old. this very same thing was the number one weapon for the U.S. military in World War I, 1917 through 1918. It was used by the American Expeditionary Force that invaded Mexico under General John J. Pershing in 1911 and 1912. It was used in World War II in 1941 to 1945, the Korean War 1950 to 1953, Vietnam from 1964 to 1973, and it didn't get replaced until 1983 when the U.S. military adopted the Beretta 92 FS, known as the M9. Now, this weapon has been popular with the public for 108 years. So what in the devil are we talking about? Oh, my God, this weapon is a magic weapon, this space gun shot up all these kids. It hasn't been used for that in 108 years, so you have to ask yourself, why would a weapon that is basically an antique be claimed as some device of horror that never produced this kind of thing back when but does now? What's the difference? Back then, they promoted masculinity. Right now, they try to destroy it. So what's going on in common with all of these people that you see doing these mass shootings is a lack of masculinity. What's going on with these people in the neighborhoods that are doing drive-by shootings is a lack of masculinity. Your typical gangbanger, your hood rat, is not a man. He's a lesbian in a boy's body. Lesbians and these boys are raised to like girls. They're raised as girls. The only difference is a lesbian doesn't have boy plumbing. And if you had the fairy god's queer waving a magic wand, so the lesbian showed up tomorrow morning with a penis, there'd be no difference. We lack masculinity in our communities, which is one of the problems we have with getting where we need to be. We do not have sufficient masculine attributes because as long as we've been in this country, masculine aspects of the African and the African descendant have been suppressed. Now, that's where we go there. Dr. Umar Johnson has said that, you know, black people giving up guns in the face of racism, yeah, they're armed to the teeth. They believe that it's better to be dead than red. I regret that I have but one life to give for my country, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And they die for causes. We don't. Well, let's take that back. We will play sacrificial lamb and somebody jacks us off, blows up a black church or something, or guns down a Medgar Evers, or lynches an Emmett Till, but we do that, but they go down gun in hand, firing to the last round or take their own life, like this Asian guy did. He had the decency to try and kill himself, which would have made it all neater if we didn't have to go through the changes of prosecuting him. But we don't think that way. So correct. We lack the warrior spirit. We lack manhood as a people. And it's time that we acquire that if we ever want to get free. And this whole country is going downhill because it's losing its masculine component. The gravitas, that's the gravity, the solemnity of manhood, and the duty, honor, responsibility unto death to do certain things and to be held to that. To be brave and courageous as the greatest things of merit in human history. But nowadays it's all about love and affection and understanding and emotion. And it's okay to be a coward, it's okay to run, and that stuff makes nothing but degenerate people in a society that is going downhill like it's on a bobsleigh on an icy slope. Meanwhile, the People's Republic of China is succeeding us in science, technology, engineering, and math. I got one of the new X phones when they came out, and they gave you an update on where it was when it was being shipped to you. It had a location in mainland China where it was made, to another location in mainland China, to another location where it flew out of the country to Hong Kong, and then from Hong Kong to the West Coast, and from the West Coast to Tennessee. So the miraculous iPhone with all of this technology is made where? In China. Well, I basically said my spiel. I know we had this exchange last week, Dr. Johnson, about masculinity, and you were talking about I'm a chauvinist. Yes, I'm a chauvinist. I will never follow a woman. I will hire one for a doctor, lawyer, dentist, accountant, anything like that, but I'm an alpha male. I don't follow women into battle. They follow me, or I follow somebody that I've hooked my hat with and said, I think this guy needs to be the war chief. So that's the way it rolls. I do not follow women. And a lot of people on my generation and a lot of other young men I've talked to will not. And we've got this call to have, what was it, Hillary to be the president. That was offensive to a lot of American men. There's still a reservoir of masculine duty, honor, responsibility, accountability, alpha male being the war leader, the hunt leader, and the political leader, and we don't follow women. So there is that. No attempt to disguise that particular sentiment. But let's keep it on, see what happens from here. I'm interested.
Well, I would.
All right, Ms. Val.
Let me. How you doing there, Judge? How are you?
All right, Doctor. How are you doing today?
All right.
Always love a good debate.
Absolutely. Now, when you spoke of not following a woman into battle, I can agree with you on that because war is a masculine undertaking. But leadership itself is not limited to armed combat. Okay?
No.
People can lead in education, they can lead in economics. Okay, they can lead in so many different facets of society. Now, when you qualify it and say that you wouldn't follow a woman into military action, I agree with you. But that doesn't mean that a black woman isn't capable of being a leader in so many of the other segments of our society. So my position.
But I'm not following her. And a lot of men are not going to follow any woman that attempts to hold herself out is a leader in the affairs of a given community. It doesn't work because they need to deal with the aspects of motherhood in the peripheral matters. They can be accountants, lawyers, doctors, and all of that. But their whole thing is they have a very important function as to birthing and raising the next generation, and that is a time-consuming factor. And any real mother has her hands full doing that. She doesn't have time to do something else, and she should be, if she wants to be a leader in the community, leading other young women who are young mothers in the process of raising and birthing these children. And that is a very important job because without it, we all die out. So they aren't doing a good job today because too many of these boys aren't getting raised right, and now are the girls.
All right, Feel the Great. I think I'm going to stop it right there. I don't want to commandeer our listeners' time. It was a 2-hour show. So what I'm going to do is just take out that part. I guess that would be part 3 of 3. I don't know. Dr. Umar is coming back, but yeah, we're at 3 now. So please make sure that you listen to 1 and 2 so you'll be abreast of what's going on. But yeah, I'm going to load that here in just a second. Give me a minute and I will let you know what's going on down in the comment section. So meet me there. What I want to do at this time is I want to play a compilation that I played for Dr. Umar. Also, I want to play his reaction. And the reason I am now updating Popeye's Chicken is because it's getting serious out there, and I definitely want to make sure that I do my part to address the seriousness. Okay, I'll meet you down in the comment section.
We got chicken sandwiches on deck. We got them mild. We got them spicy. Get them how you want it. You know what I'm saying? We got some good old chicken. This is beyond me. I'm flabbergasted.
Girl, really? Did I say what? Oh, That's what I asked. No, I did. I said. You said
Now to Maryland, where a man was stabbed to death outside a Popeye's restaurant. Police say the stabbing happened over a fight about the fast food chain's chicken sandwich. You heard me right.
Available public records on the people involved in the Popeye's chicken sandwich stabbing case show that both individuals face criminal charges at the time of the incident. The suspect, 30-year-old Rico McLean, was wanted at the time of the stabbing on criminal warrants, according to Maryland Online court records. Meanwhile, the victim, 28-year-old Kevin Tyrell Davis, had just been indicted by Prince George's County's grand jury on charges of being a felon in possession of a firearm, the records say. Davis, the alleged line cutter, was murdered at the Popeyes just 2 days before he was scheduled for an arraignment in the weapons case. The two men were complete strangers at the time of the fatal confrontation, according to Prince George's County Police. The confrontation happened at the Oxon Hill Popeyes restaurant the evening of November 3rd. Police say McLean stabbed Davis after Davis methodically cut ahead of others in a long line to get chicken sandwiches at the restaurant.
Dr. Umar, what do we do? What do we say? How do I present? How do I produce shows to address people who operate in a lower chakra? Do you have any advice for me?
Well, I think that most black people in America operate in the lower chakra. I just think that we do a very good job of projecting and suggesting otherwise. I think many of those who consider themselves black and conscious also operate in a low chakra. But, on a social media platform, on a media platform, we're able to recreate ourselves to look like that which we would like to be perceived as, but that's not necessarily our reality. I think there is a lot of false flagging. I think there's a lot of fake hotepping. I think there is a lot of fabricated consciousness. I think there is a lot of superficial activism. So I don't think that qualitatively speaking, there's much difference between those who consider themselves black and conscious and those who are standing in that Popeye's line. And what I mean by that, although Popeye's chicken became the subject through which the object of black-on-black crime manifested itself, we also see conscious subject and subjective information becomes the objective way through which black-on-black self-hate manifests itself. The only thing different was the circumstances and the context. But you see the exact same thing happening, whether it's middle-class black America, working-class black America, upper-class black America, or conscious America. I think we all suffer from that. It is Willie Lynch. It is post-traumatic slavery disease to the umpteenth power. And I think we are beginning to witness the demise and the destruction of black pride and black self-respect. Where is our integrity? How in the world do you not only you take the life of another African, which is egregious and unacceptable by all means, but at the same time you do it over a chicken sandwich that you should not be buying or supporting anyway. So again, that consciousness is something that we as the people have to address. And I know you said we'll get to the topic of reparations, but I want to be absolutely clear in tying this in to reparations. What good is giving reparations to Americanized Africans as long as they are still Americanized? In other words, if you give a payout, an individual payout to Americanized Africans, what good is that payout if they're going to go and buy a Popeye sandwich? You see, and then on top of that, you have to ask yourself the question, how much can an external payment repair internal damages? How much can an external payment repair internal damages? Now, I am a supporter of reparations. I want to be very clear, but I am not a supporter in the method in which I am seeing it popularized, championed, advocated for, and being carried out. Because I believe that the biggest thing that must be repaired in black people is our psyche. The biggest thing that must be rehabilitated in black America is our consciousness, our behavior, our way of thinking, and most of all, our way of thinking about one another. No amount of financial restitution can change the way we think. Internal reparations must precede external reparations, and until there is internal reparations, no external reparation will benefit us.
Well, we don't have to be suckers and damn ignorant fools to go along with it. we need to acquire some information and knowledge.
We're always interested in what you have to say about our live broadcasts.
Please share your comments on our Facebook page or websites.